Hey, yo. Ready to go.
All set.
And welcome to hashtag Set Life. Brad's face always gets me up.
I was a little slower than I feel like you normally do.
Yeah, well,
Because there is no song. He tells you it's the same every time.
No,
but
it's
not.
It's similar every time.
similar,
it's
yeah.
it's the same. I just like
It's not the same.
it's that look in your eye. That's what gets me.
It's called tempo, Bradford.
Welcome to hashtag Set Life, everybody. I am Bradford Clark here with Joseph Quick, our instrumentationalist,
Yo!
and soundtrack writer, and today we have with us Jake Cypert, who is a first assistant camera operator. Jake, welcome to the show.
Hello. You said two different roles there at one time.
First assistant camera
Operator.
Yeah, showed up as operator online. I've never seen it as such.
Yeah,
but
I would not call first assistant camera a
But you do
operator.
do both. You do cam op and
I don't do a lot of.
TP'd here and there.
Never
So
not a lot.
what are the roles and responsibilities of the first AC?
Well, first and foremost, the most important role. Well, it's debatable. I would say that. I mean, the role that you get hired for is how good you can make sure everything's in focus. You know,
Pulling focus.
That
Yep,
is
the focus
the I would say the most skill intensive part of that job.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it takes you have to learn it, you have to know, you have to feel it. It's a muscle memory thing. Aside from that, you are in charge of the camera department. You make sure the camera is running. You make sure the camera is loaded with media. You make sure. I mean, you and the second
to
assistant.
make sure it's built properly.
To make sure it's built properly
batteries are
for
ready,
the operator.
medias,
And you know, it's not just a first AC role; it's a second AC role, which I will also do from time to time. Not as much because we don't have a lot of those.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Most of the stuff around here is camera assistant, but not really first or second. Just camera assistant camera, and that's about it. Which is not really the best.
We operate on bare bones out here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just finished this shoot in
It's on our level.
Kentucky,
level.
and they had 2 camera operators, 2 first ACs,
Yeah.
and 1 second between them, which is still fine.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you're going all out and you're doing the 2
Mm-hmm.
cameras, and you know, at least there's this first for it, because I've done 2 camera shoots where the second camera just doesn't get any assistance.
Yeah.
But to at least have 1 second is still so nice to have.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. Every time I have a second, it's like a luxury, you know. And I like being a second. I don't get to do it very often, but whenever I do it, it's somebody that's way better than me, and I'm learning something that I would not learn otherwise. You know.
Right. How important is learning things on set to you?
I would say I learned everything on set.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to school, yeah, but like for my role as it is, like all I learned was what the job is. You don't really get a ton of opportunities to really learn it. And, you know, when you're, the hardest thing to learn is the fact that, especially if you have an actual department where you're actually running things and not just me and the DP or whatever, you have to know how to manage your second. You have to know how to talk to your DIT. You have to know how to communicate with the DP and see what they want, or get it before they even tell you, which is way more important, you know?
Sure.
Yeah, intuition's a huge thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then, so take us through your path to becoming a first AC. Did you? I mean, obviously, going to film school is a decision to get into film. What led you to desire to get into film school to start with? Let's start there.
Well, in high school, I had a video production class where it was mostly news, you know, news, radio type
That's video
stuff.
production, most schools,
exactly, yeah. DV tapes, mini DV tapes. And me and a couple of buddies were just making stuff on the side, you know, and we would be like, oh, can we put this on the thing as like a PSA? And we try to find a way to get it to
get your stuff in front of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Without renting the equipment out.
Yeah, exactly. Because we used our own stuff too. So, but that's where it started. And I was like, I like doing this. I just like being on set. I like doing it. And granted, that was just 3 dudes in high school fucking around essentially. But it was like
It all starts somewhere.
exactly, and it was the impetus for me to go. I know what I want to do now. At 18, I know what I want to do now.
Which is a good time to figure it out.
Yeah. Yep. And that was 11 years ago now. So
Okay.
So I didn't start going to film school. I went to I had my dad and my stepmom who were like, go to
Get
college,
a real job.
get it. No. They were like, do this, but go to college, get a degree, do it that way. Don't, do it the way where you translate that to something else if it doesn't work out.
Sure.
So I went to the military to pay for school. Went to a community college for a few years. Discovered MPI and Motion Picture Institute, which is the film school around here, basically, like the trade school variation of a film school around here. After 3 years at community college, I was like 1 credit short of getting a degree, and it was like a math credit or something, and they didn't take some of my they wouldn't transfer credits from my military over to that.
The red tape with college is so stupid.
And it was like, if you just give me that 1 credit, I'll have an associate's and it'll be fine. But they didn't, and I'm like, I'm not spending more money for 1 single class. I'm already enrolled at this other school, so I'm just going to go to the other school. It took very little convincing from my parents, actually, because I was like, hey, here's the website. My dad looked it over and was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I understand why you'd want to do that.
Yeah.
And because Macomb, the community college, was mostly graphic design. I was doing Photoshop, After Effects, stuff like that. Stuff that I don't do at all.
Right.
Yeah.
MPI is where I learned that an assistant camera existed, is needed. I thought I was going to go there to edit,
Okay.
And now I hate editing.
Sure.
It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I didn't even start, even after I graduated, I was like, still not really sure what I want to do. I was thinking about grip, G&E, and I was like, it's fun. I like the problem solving required for that.
Sergeant, grunt. You want to work for a living.
Yeah. I liked that aspect of it. Like I gaffed a couple of those student films.
Yeah.
And it was a fun time. And I thought, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go into that department. And I didn't get any work. And then I was working at the school covering for the equipment manager at the time. And one of the people that runs it was like, oh, we got an email looking for this Christmas movie in Frankenmuth that's looking for a B-cam first AC. Do you know anybody? And I'm like, yeah, I know how to do that.
Yeah.
I probably did it once.
I know me.
I probably did it once, pulling focus once in school in the whole year that I was there. I'm like, I need work. I need money.
Yeah. Say yes.
So yeah, I said yes, and it was $150 a day for B-cam first AC.
Good place to start.
Good first job, but that's a rough.
It's a rough rate, and I didn't know any better at the time.
But you know what? Those are the rates that you feel comfortable saying. Yeah, fuck yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
If
Definitely bullshit.
if that's what they think-
$150 day.
If that's what they think the job is worth, then they may not know the whole job, and at least that gives you a chance to cut your teeth.
I think the budget that I heard this movie had was about $600,000.
Wow.
So
They definitely have
the reason they went with somebody like me is because everybody else in town who actually knew what they were doing wasn't going to do it for that rate.
Yeah.
It's simple as that.
Yeah, 100%. See that all the time.
But like, I didn't know any better. I was like, I just need a job.
Was it a day play job, or was it a?
I was supposed to be there for 6 and it ended up being 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the full run. Do you know what the full run of that show was?
Like 12 or 15 days.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't a lot of days. It's on Hulu though. Christmas movie, Christmas.
Well, it's good to know that.
Christmas movie, Christmas?
Yes.
That's the title.
That's the title.
Christmas movie, Christmas.
Yes.
All right. Yep. Not looking that one up myself. You guys go right ahead. No, but it's good to know that MPI at least exposed you to the other career paths that are there behind the scenes.
Yes, it was every path.
That's
nice.
nice.
They have an editing class, they have a G&E class, they have a directing class, they have a writing class. And
Okay.
It's actually, as far as I know, it's the only school that for a week they'll rent a grip truck from, well, it used to rent it from DPL, but I don't know if that's where they do it now.
Probably Scotia or
somewhere like,
Courtesy Flag
somewhere
now.
like that. Probably Courtesy Flag, because those are all MPI.
And Scotia's
people.
right down the road from MPI.
Yeah, DPL's a bit further. I mean, it's not super far, but it is a bit further.
Well, they rent the truck, and the grip teacher drives it, and he has a
a day rental on a fucking 1-ton should be worth it for whatever they're charging.
Well, it's a 1-ton. They have they drop the Fisher down, and
what
they
really
have
surprised me though is at the school, and I've been there now.
You got to use a Fisher dolly. Okay, that's amazing.
I don't understand why some of that equipment's not available at the school.
like what?
There was a lack of C stands. There was a few
Yeah,
light stands. I mean, they're just like basic stuff for you to like. How are you instructing? If you in order to run a G&E class, you've got to rent a half-ton for a week. Like,
Well, that's
How many students do you go through before you just own a half ton?
right.
that's what I'm saying.
Well,
It
that's
didn't take me a couple of years to.
so. I mean, to me, it's like you're not. You have enough. They have enough there to teach the students that are there. It's a very basic setup. They have, a bunch of
Small
different
class sizes. Or?
Yeah, like 15, 20, somewhere around there. Okay. At least when I was there, I don't know what it's now.
Yeah, it's probably still around that.
And, they have a whole bunch of flags. They have a whole bunch of diffusion. They have a whole bunch of gels. They have all that stuff. I don't know what their lighting packages are now because it's been
Everything they
5-6 years.
Everything I had when I went there was, and I didn't attend there, but when I visited the school, we had to use it for a location. But
we were filming with an alumni. Yeah.
they had some HMIs and some stuff in the light tracks.
Yeah.
But I didn't see any free floating lights. So if they had it, it was.
There used to be.
Tucked away
They probably they took them away now. They probably because they used to have like a whole there's that cage, and there used to just be a bunch of lights that were just sitting there, and it was like 2Ks. I think there was a
selling
5K.
off all the hot lights, trying to.
I mean, which they should, but still.
Well, I don't know if they still had basically what they wanted you to use to learn as like a basic thing was like a 3 or 4 light kit. It was like they're all hot lights. It was like a 1K. 650, 2-300s, or 2
I mean,
650s.
people should be trained on hot lights. I
Yeah.
know they're not as common, but you need to know how to.
Well, I think at best, how to site out electricity for them.
Yes,
Well, that,
exactly, yeah.
but
Keep a
also
circuit. Yeah.
like how to color temp. Like you don't have options on those. You have
It's based
tungsten.
on the
You have
filament.
tungsten, and that's it.
Well, no, I mean, I have hot lights that have different filament in them and do glow daylight.
Well, like HMIs are like that, sure, but
I have a 1K that's not an HMI.
Really?
It's daylight. Yeah, it's an RE, right? But it's because of the filament inside,
Yeah.
right? Like
Either way, it's one choice, whether
Right.
it's 56 or 32.
but you
you're
still have
stuck
to
there.
know like which lamp has this
Right.
filament. Like, because I could have 2 REs that look exactly the same, but this one's daylight, this
Right.
one's tungsten. It's
Right, and you see that
about the
on,
bulb that's inside of it.
amateur sets a lot. I mean, when I was developing, I didn't know to look for the difference in just light bulbs. And
Does the job,
I was just
so who
using
cares?
60 and 80, 75 watt light bulbs, and
Yeah.
one
there's a
was
whole-
white,
yeah.
one was yellow. I didn't care to pay attention. I didn't know to look for it.
Whole world, whole science behind it,
So, I mean, like a lot of us, getting into the job world was a struggle for you. After that picture, what kind of was your approach to continuing to work?
I honestly, I wish I would go back and have PA'd more. But I did a bunch of free work as an AC for a bunch of free projects, which barely led to anything. I was lucky to get a paid job, But I wish I went back, and I wish I was a PA on that movie and not an AC.
I was hoping you would say something along that, because I did want. We stress a lot on the show
paid
about
PA work,
production
and really,
assistants.
just for networking
Yeah,
experiences,
exactly.
meeting the people and learning on set, getting all that grit knowledge.
I didn't PA enough. I'm a bad PA, but I didn't PA enough.
So you did PA.
I have PA'd. I actually PA'd later. I PA'd.
Yeah, he was on a movie with me where he PA'd. He got stuck in transpo, so he was just driving the van around.
But that was really my first real experience as a PA.
And that's what I'm getting to. So I want to ask, like, where do you find the value is in PAing for someone who thinks about it and they're like, I don't want to PA.
Well, I mean, it really depends on the level of the movie, but I feel like stealing jokes, I learned so fucking much about
that was a good
the running, how a production runs, like what you should look for when it comes to the way a movie's actually done. You know, like sure, you get the basics of it on any set, but like that one, like there's so many more moving parts on that compared to a Tubi movie that we normally do or whatever.
So
you know what I mean?
the value of being a PA came from being able to experience and see that stuff because you're not stuck in, if you were, camera department, you're not stuck, but you are stuck.
Pretty stuck.
Camera department, you're by the camera 100% of the day. You're one of the few departments
you're in the heartbeat of the production.
One of the few departments that is unable to just step off set, for
like
any
see the
given
cogs
reason.
moving outside of the
Right. And so like for that job, I was on the actual set maybe twice in the 20 days.
Yep.
Yeah, I was on set where they were actually shooting maybe twice. The rest of the time I was doing lockup, I was driving the van, I was doing runs, I was doing all this other stuff that
all of these things
Monday through Friday
because they're not on set, a lot of people don't consider them important, and they are.
Super.
We couldn't have been as well greased if you weren't.
How many times did I go get gas?
Gas is so important.
For heating,
Yeah, he got
such
his
an
gas.
underthought about
brought a new crafty
list on the.
Well, we had a crafty guy for that. That wasn't that.
Really?
We had
you were bringing new. I know we had Chef Curtis.
Yeah, they were taking care of that too.
They took over all crafty,
Yeah.
not just the meals. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that old dude that was
Look at
always
me,
sitting
I'm
there.
learning something. I was on this set.
That old dude that was always sitting there, I don't know his name. He was just in charge of crafty. Pretty much.
Nice. Yeah.
So every time when they would bring the meals, they would just refill crafty. So yeah.
And being on this was a $3 million set, so like it was another level of. And like eight G&E people, we've only been on like one or two of sets like that, and this was like a lot of this was like going ahead, pre-planning, pre-building, coming back to help tear down. Like a lot of the times, I wasn't even on the actual set. I was prepping the set for the next move, and then coming back and tearing down afterwards. And like you said, learned a lot.
Learned a shit ton. Didn't learn anything about ACing, but I learned a shit ton about how productions are run.
So, as far as not learning anything about ACing, there's still value in learning the other things around you.
It gives you a respect for what the other people are doing that you wouldn't otherwise get.
I think that on a lot of the sets that we work on, sometimes we run into individuals who are so stuck in just what their path is and what their train is that they, especially if they're higher up the food chain, not understanding what needs to be done to get an ask taken care of is that can hurt a production. To not really know like how much time or how much effort or
somebody thinks 3 minutes and it takes 40.
Right.
Because what you asked for is not a 3-minute task.
Right.
You got 15 people that have to pull off this harmonious thing.
Right. Yeah.
Takes time.
But that was the same year that we did Sunlight and The Mask. That was probably The Mask. Honestly, was the movie that I started working regularly. That was like the year that I quit my full-time job and started doing this full-time.
And you found your first professional circle.
Yes.
Let's be honest, people work like that's part of that intuition thing we were talking about earlier. Like you work with people, you get closer with them, you can anticipate them more. People like to work with the same people so that they don't have to explain themselves as much.
Right. Yeah. Like I put in my 2 weeks for stealing jokes, and then The Mask happened, and I'm like, hey, I got to leave now instead of 2 weeks. Not that I'm coming back anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Super cut.
Yeah.
Still not
super cut. Yeah. I don't know what's going on with that.
It's still working on it.
Booking days.
I don't know. We talked to him last week.
Yeah.
So if at that point you hadn't already decided that you wanted to be a first AC, Do you feel like, was your experience on Stealing Jokes enough of a good experience that you would have, I mean, you said you would now, looking back, you would do more PAing, but at the time, was your experience enough to where you would have sought out more PAing jobs if first AC jobs hadn't come your way?
Yeah. That's what I was going to do. That was the plan, because I was basically restarting from scratch, again, not that I was anywhere before, but like I was doing part-time stuff.
Sure.
That was, I was like, I'm going to do more PAing work. And then I went to DC for the PBS 4th of July show. And then I came back
with De Silva.
With Ryan De Silva. And then I came back, and the next day is the day that we started Sunlight. And then I think I PA'd a couple days on Girl Like Him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
you did.
And then Jared left, and I took his job as the grip.
Yep.
And I almost quit that job as a PA. If Jared didn't have another job, I was gonna walk off.
That was my first day on, and you were like, "I'm about to quit," and I was like, "Well, hold on."
But yeah,
I'll get you a transfer.
Yeah, it just so happened Jared was like, "I got another job." I'm like, "Dude, if you leave, I'll take your job."
I don't remember Jared leaving that set.
You weren't there.
But he worked other days, because I worked the final day and Jared was there.
Yeah. When I was there, you weren't.
Correct. So the whole G&E team was pretty scattered like that.
Yeah, so I had like triple booked myself and wound up like just having my gear rented and had to get Phil to
Phil gaffed.
And a producer had to lend him a truck to haul the gear. Like, this whole crazy thing.
Yeah,
every day was a toss up on who was on G&E that day.
I almost quit that. And that was like the first gig after Stealing Jokes, I think.
Okay.
No. I had one other gig before that.
That was Midsummer. It was Midsummer.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant. Sunlight. I meant Sunlight. But I had another job, I think right before that, as an AC for like a docu reality commercial type deal.
Okay.
For Riot Games.
Interesting. Nice.
And like 2 weeks later, that same company for Girl Like Him was like, "Hey, do you want to PA on this commercial?" And I was like surrounded by people that I was just on the same level as. Not that like, you know what I mean? Like I went from AC to PA, and everybody that was in like G&E was like, not everybody, but there's a couple people in G&E that was like, "Oh yeah, I was just working with you on that Riot Games thing, which was kind of a thing. And now I'm here again. I got to stop doing this."
Yeah.
I'm taking step backs already.
We do run into a lot of people on a lot of sets, and oftentimes there are people, because I work in two different positions, that you see me as an AD and then you see me gripping,
right?
And people walk in and start asking me questions. I'm like, "Oh no, I'm not the guy today. You gotta today I just pick things up and put them down."
Right.
So you just gotta, I guess, manage your own brand at that point. But I personally wouldn't, if I showed up even now, having been in the positions that I've been, I still don't think I'm below taking a PA job.
I'm not
in certain situations.
Yeah, and that's not what I mean. I don't mean I'm below it. I mean,
but if you're in the same circle taking different positions.
Not only that, but I'm not learning how to do my job better as a PA because it's a totally different department.
No,
like you as an AD, if you went on to a bigger show to PA, you're going to learn something about ADing.
Yeah.
Because that's generally the steps you take as a PA.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm nowhere near camera department as a PA most of the time when I was PAing. That one was a little different because it was the same crew as Girl Like Him. And I was already cool with the Jose's and everything. So
it's fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was basically trying my best to talk to them and everything like that. So it was a little different, but it was still like I'm not really learning anything.
Yeah. So that brings me to, I think, my next question. Looking forward from where you're at now to where you'd like to be, what are some things that you look forward to? Like, obviously, we all like a good payday.
Yeah.
But do you value sometimes the potential of learning something in comparison? So if you're getting what sounds like a really good offer, pay is like okay, not solid, but not bullshit.
Yeah.
But you're going to work with some people that you don't care for versus the same day where maybe there's another one where it's a little bit less pay, but it's a whole bunch of new people in something is tantalizing about the project.
Right. Well, I mean, that also depends. Like if it's like, yeah, it's new people, but they're all out of town. I've worked with plenty of out of town people, and I never get a call from them again.
Right.
You know, if it's like that, I'm like, oh, it's not going to be worth my time to talk to these out of town people who are coming here for 3 days, not really going to get to know me, and they're going to leave, and I'll never hear from them again. Whereas I go to a local set where it's local producers, local DP, you know, someone where I know they're going to be working here. I know they're going to be working, maybe not often, maybe not regularly, but they're going to be working enough where I can try my best to make an impression on them.
Call me next week, but they could call me next month.
Yeah,
2 months.
yeah, and that's happened plenty. I mean, that's what happened with The Mask. You know, because I took over for somebody else. I made an impression on whoever I made an impression on, and Dylan called me, you know, again for the next one, or Ro called me for the next one, which was I think Birth of a Savage or whatever.
Yep.
So
it was the same year.
Yeah.
Birth of a Savage, now available on Tubi. I do recommend watching it. It's a good movie.
Is it? I haven't seen it.
It's a good movie. Yeah. So then I might have posed those.
I would love more second AC work, to answer your question.
Yeah.
An
opportunity to see someone else doing the job.
Yes.
Not that you can't do the job, but I always like, even for me, like I always feel like being able to watch someone do something, even if they do the same thing differently, it gives me an idea of how I can approach things.
Yeah, because so Sunlight, to go back to that, was probably one of the better experiences I've had as an AC because, well, first of all, I started as a second AC, and that didn't work out. I became the first AC for reasons behind the scenes that I really don't know about and I don't need to know about. I became the first AC, and that was an experience where I had to learn how to be a first AC for a department. That was the first time I really had a second AC.
Right.
So I had to learn how to manage that whole thing. And there was a camera operator, and there was, you know.
Right. So now all of a sudden you're a department leader.
Yeah.
Drone operators.
First time working with the ARI, you know, it was like this whole, was it the first time? I think it was the first time or the second time working with that ARI, you know. I was like, I'm learning a bunch on the fly right now.
Right.
Whereas if I had, one of my other good jobs was just last October. It was for this Brazilian movie where I was a second AC for 20 days. And it was for somebody that's one of the better ACs in town, you know. And I learned a shit ton on that movie that I would not learn otherwise.
Hell yeah! I mean, I've been gaffing for a while, and I know you have to, you know, get jobs from other people, and sometimes I'll take the Key Grip or even Best Boy Electric,
right?
And you're learning something new from a DP or from somebody who maybe even I've taught a lot about gaffing, how to maybe this new light works or this new technique, or just utilizing the space better to spread the light. Yeah, you can.
Right, and like I learned different things about rigging I would have never known about for, you know, when it comes to
everybody thinks
stuff you wouldn't think about. Yeah,
right.
Exactly. So, the organization of the camera, organization of the department, organization of your carts, like that stuff that I would never know.
It's always a good measure.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting point from someone on the outside looking in. Having not ever really worked in the camera department.
Sorry.
Is there no standard to how a camera is set up as far as the accoutrement that goes on it, or is it like, do you find a lot of like this DP prefers to have like?
That's really what the question is. What is because your job is to set them up for success. So if they like their shoulder mount a certain way, you gotta make that shoulder mount a certain way, and like
there's so much shit you got to attach to the camera anymore, you know, with the broadcast, the transmitters, the different the polars,
and most of it
the cable management,
and most of it there is like a not standard, but the way that most people do it, you know,
like, so there's just like an agreed upon way to just like, this is acceptable, this is not.
Silently agreed upon way.
Some DPs want the IP, some want the
monitor,
small monitor, some want a bigger monitor. Some,
exactly. So it's all different.
You got the transmitter and you got the hopper.
Because not even each
audio,
camera or each camera rig is created equal, right? So like, you know, when you're talking about like the transmitter, for example, you know, something like the Hollylands or the Pterodex, they're different sizes, right? They're just like
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oblong and
the
it's-
battery placement, the place the battery where the
I don't
battery
care
goes.
how well they're designed, they're oblong
Right.
and obtuse on the camera body.
And you
And
got people who use bongo ties. You got others who use Velcro strips. You got so there's just so many rubber bands for
Magic
whatever
arms.
reason. Yeah.
Yeah, and like, depending on the camera, you're gonna do it differently. Like for me, when I'm working on with an operator who owns the camera, I always have my Teradek on like a quick release system, and I just pop on the quick release on the camera and put it somewhere where it's not going to get in the way, and that's that. But if I'm going to like Stratton, always their cameras are pretty much not the same, but like I've used their Alexis a couple times now.
So setup from one to the other is going to be pretty close.
Pretty similar, and like. I had to set it up as a second AC. There was a whole situation where the first just couldn't be there on time for whatever reason. Not his fault. It's just one of those things. And I was like, I guess I'm setting this camera up, even though I've never done a rental here before as a first AC.
I remember this shoot.
Yeah,
He called me like, "Oh, he just pulled up."
Yeah, did I?
We were on the phone for like 10 minutes on that.
Oh yeah, that was But I'm doing this thing, and I'm like, well, I guess here we go. And I'm like asking, because always there's like a tech basically who is like
At the camera shop?
he helps you make sure you have everything you need and you're not missing anything, nothing's broken. They can swap it out 1-to-1, stuff like that.
Yeah, if cable's bad.
Yeah, exactly.
So when it comes to prepping a camera for a shoot, what are some things that the production company should consider when talking to the camera department as far as time allotted to get you ready for set?
Well, there should be a prep day.
One day?
At least one day. Usually it's just one day, because you just go in, you would build the camera. This is also dependent on if it's an owner op, because owner ops are different. They just build it out themselves and bring it to set. But if you're doing something where you're renting it, you should have a prep day. You should go to the rental house or wherever you're renting it from, make sure it's built properly, make sure all the lenses work properly, make sure, the cables work properly, the transmitter works properly. Make sure everything works before you leave the shop. You know?
That's the basic tech scout day. Like G&E's a little different. Camera does all that. G&E goes and looks for power and where's our setups.
Is this something that most of the shoots where I'm familiar with that happening, it happens the day before? Is that enough time to prep, or should it be before in the event of having to replace something?
No. If you're doing it at the shop, like
at
if you're doing
the shop
it
itself,
if you're doing it at Stratton, because that's like the rental house around in town. If you do it at Stratton, you're gonna be fine.
Okay.
They have everything there. If something's broken, you can just go, hey, this is broken.
And that's why you want to do it the day before instead of the morning of.
Right.
So you can take your time, be meticulous. Say, what's the problem? Oh, it's this wire, or maybe the camera itself has a loose input, and you got to get a whole new camera rig.
Well, you did have to get a whole new camera rig on a shoot on that Brazilian movie. We had just for whatever reason, the power distribution system failed on set. We don't know why. And we were like, hey, the power distribution system is just not working. Like it was just like cutting in and out for whatever reason. And we're like, well, let's just do a 1-to-1 swap and get you a new camera.
Oh,
so we brought it back the next day and had a new.
How much time lost from that?
Well, it was a day off, I think. So it was. Yeah.
Lucky.
Expensive though. Still.
Oh yeah, but I mean, like if it was
just one day,
if it was mid battery swap and you're 6 hours into a 12,
Well, we were like at the end of the day when it started happening. I think I don't remember.
Lucky.
Yeah, I don't remember all the details. It was happening all day, and it was just progressively getting worse. I know that.
Nice.
If someone was listening and assumed that today was the first time they even heard of the role of a first AC. Where would you send them to learn more? Is there something that you do offset to help you prepare better? You seem like a really knowledgeable person. Like when we're talking, like this is like a hobby for you. Just know shit. So without spilling all your secrets, I guess, but like where's a good place to go to further an education? Are there books for first ACs?
There is. It's a camera assistant manual, which I've never read. There's the Black and Blue, which is a blog that has stuff which I've never really frequented, but it's there. I know them all, There's a Focus Puller at Work podcast, which I listen to whenever they don't put out a lot of episodes, but I listen to it whenever there is an episode. Unless they have had some Spanish language ones, so obviously I didn't.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
you could listen.
Sources
I could
cited,
listen.
but
I
not
just
read.
I just can't understand it.
It's not doing you any good.
Yeah, Instagram. Like there's pages that are like, look at this build, look how I built this thing, and here's the things that I put on this camera to make it work. That kind of stuff.
Do you
Take
feel
a 4-pound camera and make it 35 pounds.
Do you feel the interest, your personal interest, if I were to pursue the camera department, first AC, second AC, however how you want to take that? Because I mean, first off, a first AC, that's a career job. You can first AC, your whole life. There's no reason to desire any more in there, and there's a lot of importance to it. Is it just about shot composition for you, or like you were just saying, like does being a product nerd, a tech nerd, kind of help you? Do you feel
I think it helps.
The more familiar you are with the products that are out there, the less doe-eyed you are when you come into a new shoot and you're like, shit, I've never seen this.
Yeah, for sure. And like a lot of it, like I wouldn't have learned unless I was on set. It's really what it is. Like
There's so much that comes
so
out.
much. Yeah. There's so many times where I'm like, early, at least starting out, where I'm like, I don't know what this is. I'm gonna figure it out though. It helps to be mechanically inclined, I think.
Okay.
I mean,
it helps me.
The problems that you solve are different than the problems that someone else solves on set, and it sounds like yours are very kinetically based.
And that's like when it comes to the rigging of a camera, that's like when there's problems with the camera, that's like one of my favorite parts of the job is figuring out how to solve the problem with the tools that I'm given. And usually when we're on these low budget sets, you're finagling some stuff together. Yeah.
No backup cable.
So my kit keeps getting bigger with like, here's another arm. Here's some other tool that I have. Oh, I had this problem on set last week. Right. How can I solve that? And I would go online and find some overpriced piece of metal that fixes the problem.
Funny story. That's how I wound up with a 2-ton G&E.
Oh, this truck doesn't have what I need. I guess I should just buy it.
Yeah, just keep buying cables and mounts and generators and lights. Oh,
but that's
never
pretty
stops.
much...
It's an addiction.
When you run into a situation on set that stumps you, what goes through your mind as far as that goes? So the camera's not working. I mean, you're not a repair guy, but like there's got to be moments on set where like you have these oh shit, oh fucks. How do you personally manage something like that to get to the resolution?
I mean, depends on the problem. If it's like a electrical issue with the camera, there's nothing I can do. I don't have a solder gun with me. I don't know what I'm soldering anyway, so I'm not going to worry about it.
So I think that's off and turn it back on.
Exactly. Exactly. And that usually fixes it.
It usually does. Yeah.
I guess I like the motivation for the question is everyone at that point, because if the camera's down, everyone's down.
Correct.
And so the show will only go on if we can get the camera going again. So with that kind of
switch out a cable,
with that kind of pressure and eyes upon you and your department.
I'll give the sunlight example. Do you remember the day on the beach, the day that we dumped Bobby?
Yes.
And we were having so many issues with the transmitter.
Yes.
And the quickest solve was to just say fuck the transmitter.
Right. So
it's what can I do the quickest? And sometimes that means just saying fuck the convenience, get the job done. And, so for that I kind of went, I mean, not old school because I was still on the nucleus, but I was old school in the sense that I was next to the camera and not 10, 20, 30 feet away. I had to be by the camera with the onboard monitor.
Staying out of his way, but close enough to make sure you can see it.
And we had to go quick because we were fighting daylight.
Sunlight on sunlight.
And we had to get to that dumping Bobby in the water scene.
Which then became another
issue. Another issue altogether.
You take the mic off first.
Well, there was more to it than that, but
I know.
I wasn't present. I was elsewhere. So
basically, he got too. One actor got too close to the other actor, and an accident happened.
Yeah, I'm just saying I'm not here to throw shade anywhere because I didn't witness.
Accidents happen.
Correct. That's why you get insurance.
Yes.
It was a great set. It was a fun movie. Some lasting friendships were made. Some crazy things happened, but every movie has some crazy shit.
I don't know if I'd be here if it wasn't for that movie.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh no, 100%.
100%.
No, I'm super grateful for that film.
But that was what's the solution to this problem? The solution is I don't need a tear deck. I don't need wireless monitor. I can go right here and do the same job.
Yeah.
Just as well as if I was over there. Mm-hmm. Some would say better, depending on how old school you are.
Especially if it's just for one shot.
No. It was for like several shots.
Yeah.
We were running because we ran from that house up into the lighthouse, down the beach, down the
it was all that
pier.
follow.
Yeah, it was that one.
That day.
Like I said, I was elsewhere. We had to be. It was hot set in town. Town was hot set.
I remember John Luca got dehydration.
Was that same day?
Yes, that was the same day.
And what's another problem? Man, it just happens so often. And it's
and I'm not really looking for because
that.
that's actually a really good answer because obviously I can't think of a specific example to get a specific resolve. More or less the mental and the emotional experience that you go through when coming up with that. And I think you answered that pretty well.
Yeah, you just gotta. I mean, you have to know the gear first and foremost. You have to know what you're working with. Like if you don't know what you're working with, you can't fix the problem really.
Right.
I mean, you probably can, but it's going to take you longer.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely.
Man, I can't think of any other problems.
Oh no,
You know what I
that's
mean?
right. You hit the nail on the head. I mean, I think that piece of advice right there, know the equipment.
Yeah, knowing your equipment and problem solving, those are the two biggest things. Because if you don't know your equipment, you have to be able to problem solve that shit.
Yeah,
I mean, even if you know it, if it acts up,
every scene is a problem that you're trying to solve. You're trying to solve it with how you're shooting. You're not trying to shoot the script. You're trying to solve the problem of how to shoot the script.
Right.
So like, it's just two people talking, but the problem is I can't get the camera over here behind them to do it over the shoulder. So what can I do instead? You're always trying to solve some sort of problem, no matter what.
Yeah, and if you break it down to mathematics, it's a mutating algorithm because you have the inches that the lens can see how much the sensor can. I digress.
And that was one of those things.
A lot of numbers going through.
That was one of those things that I learned on the not Sunlight, but the Brazilian movie Almost Deserted. Is like measurements. I was taking measurements of the camera the entire time.
Focal depth, yeah.
Well, not focal depth because it was still, wireless or he was just using the monitor or whatever.
For sure.
But like, if we needed to match a shot, if they were like, "Hey, we got to match a shot later in the week."
Yeah.
I had notes and I was like, which is something I never do on anything ever because we don't have time for it. Not that movie really had time for it, but my first was like, I want you to do this because I want you to know it.
Yeah.
Which, great. Thank you. I need to know it. You're right.
The higher ups do. Yeah, for sure.
So I like, we need to know at least the distance and the angle of the camera and stuff like that. It's like
I didn't get your tripod height right. You got to
exactly.
Those measurements, they matter. We had that a lot in Kentucky, and
them bubbles on the center
specifically for what you're talking about, matching shots from one scene to another that was shot on completely different days, or moving at the pace we were moving. So we're shooting 2 cameras, so
we're tearing down, coming back tomorrow.
You're shooting mother daughter, and then you got to move it to the other side, and you got to match all that shit.
Right, you want it to be the same ratio of
Yeah. And there would be times where the DP for that was like, we would do OTSs and she would be like, are we the same distance? And he would look down because we wouldn't actually measure that. We would just look at the focus mark. And like, he'd look down and like, oh no, you got to move back like 3 inches. And we just move camera back 3 inches and it'd be fine. So, but,
interesting.
Yeah.
You can go off that, but the tape measure.
Yeah, usually, tape measure's the old school film way of doing it.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Right.
But at the same time,
that same rule: measure twice, 3 times, cut once. You know what I mean? Like, your focus ring tells you now the tape measure that's 2. We're good. Right?
Well, the nice thing on the RA hand units and like the higher up hand units is they literally tell you the witness marks of the lens on it, so you don't have to guess.
That's what I was going to ask you about next. You're an owner operator with your equipment.
Yeah, I got the nucleus, the monitor, the stand, the Teradek.
Do you feel, and so I'm bringing this up because depending on where you're listening from, depending on what your market is, in our market, a lot of us own equipment for the jobs that we have because the budgets just aren't there for rentals, and unfortunately, that gives you a leg up if you just have the shit and they negotiate it in. From a personal standpoint, I mean, I can assume what you want to say, but do you feel that hinders or helps you when it comes to the overall scope of your expertise in the job?
You should always have, if you're going to be a first, you should own your own. At least, at the bare minimum, you should own like a nucleus. Sure, if you're not getting paid enough, you're not going to buy an RE hand unit or a Preston or something like that. And most of the time, you just rent that out anyways. But you should have a nucleus. You should have a manual onboard follow focus just in case the nucleus stops working for whatever reason. You should have a monitor. Everything else, like, you don't need to buy a Teradek. I have one of those, but you don't need to buy one. You could, at the bare minimum, maybe you should have 100 foot of cables. But I think you should own bare minimum a follow focus system and a monitor for sure.
I mean, at bare minimum, this was something that
for nothing else to keep your game sharp, right?
Well,
so
that's what I was going to say.
but also
that's pretty hard to set up a test system on your own.
Yeah, it's not really something
because if you're not operating a camera, nothing's changing, so you can't keep it in focus.
Exactly.
And if you're setting it up in the backyard, the dog's going to walk out of frame.
Right,
and so,
exactly. But like, you should know how your gear operates, and if you go to obviously your nucleus and stuff is going to operate the same way no matter what. But your monitor, if you go rent somebody else's monitor, now you're fucking with settings because of your focus peaking. Like, oh, this isn't how I like my focus peaking. This isn't how I like some, maybe I wanted to pull in black and white and I don't know how to get that on this monitor, or, there's so many variations when you can just go, my monitor is set up, I'm just going to stick it on my stand, plug it in, and we're good to go.
Monitor, yeah.
Well, cool.
Plus, you can rent that stuff out on bigger sets.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to discourage the renting, but I wanted your perspective as to whether or not that was something that I agree with you.
Yeah. I mean, I rented my headsets.
Having something that you can have
Brazilian movie and made like an extra $600.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Having gear is definitely a plus if you know how to use it. Like having gear just to have it. Like, don't get hired and just bring your shit and say, "Hey, I got all this stuff." Which that's nice and friendly of you, but you're missing the whole point of it. Like, your gear should be making you money. That's untaxable income, right?
Right.
And anything you make off that, that's above taxes. So just don't forget that.
Yeah.
You were gonna say what that was?
No,
that was my input.
Excellent.
That have your gear, but use it as another source of income, and
it's leverage.
Yeah, I guess
it's an
leverage
investment. Hey, I did almost walk off set once.
Utilize your investment properly.
Yeah,
I almost walked off set once I had a disagreement with somebody, and I was like, they don't have anything to pull focus with.
Take my gear.
So I'm just going to leave, and I'm taking my stuff with me. Yeah. Yep. I didn't end up leaving. The director pulled me aside and was like, please don't leave.
Well, it was worth it for you.
We all pulled you aside. None of us wanted you
to. So, unless Joe has any other questions, I don't have any other questions.
No, I think that was a good episode. We got a lot of knowledge there. We got a lot of anecdotes. I think I had fun.
Yeah,
I laughed.
Next time we got to
sneezed.
No, I didn't. First and second conversation. Have a Jared here or something.
Yeah, somebody else. Yeah, we'd like to expand more. Each of our episodes, we hope to find somebody that, like, even if we come to them and they're like, oh, why would you want to, because your job is important, and other people need to know it's important, and clearly you need to know it's important.
Yeah, every single person on set is there for a reason. They feel a need.
Correct.
You are important.
Correct. So thank you, Jake, for stopping by. Quick plug before you take off. Any social handles or anything you want people to follow you at?
J Caveman 250 is Instagram. My first last name for Facebook, even though I'm not really on that too much, but whatever. And that's about it. I mean,
any new releases coming out that you want to lead people towards?
Dude, I have no idea. No one tells me release dates.
You got it. Yeah, it's kind of personal responsibility to just keep cruising
keep
and
up
being,
on that.
Yeah, because they don't.
I will say, not camera assistant related at all. It's an audio drama comedy podcast thing called Action Jones. I wrote for it. I wrote an episode for it. I want to say a couple of years ago now. My episode's called Spiders from Mars.
Nice.
They're short episodes, like 7 to 15 minutes each. There's 3 of them out right now.
Strap them soon. Okay.
There's 3 of them out right now. As far as I know, that episode that I wrote is still coming out, but things could change.
So look for possibly.
Regardless, something you worked on a couple years ago is finally seeing the light of day, and that's always refreshing as artists in this field, because some things stay on the shelf.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool too, because that one's got it's got some local talent as the leads. Scott Norman, Mason Heidegger, as like the 2 main guys, but then like you've got the narrator voiced by Maurice LaMarche, who you might know from as the Brain from Pinky and the Brain.
No kidding.
Eric Vale, who I can't think of anything that he's been in, but you've heard his
Pinky.
Yes,
his voice.
You've heard his voice for sure.
Try to take over the world.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool. Something I wrote is being
Produced.
read by or performed by like people that I've listened to my entire life. You know, I've heard their voices my entire life.
I love the Animaniacs. Pinky and the Brain is my favorite one of those.
Yeah.
Their little side shows.
Yeah.
Well, good. So Action
Jones.
Action Jones.
I think it's the Escapades of Action Jones specifically, but you look up Action Jones, it'll come up.
And Joseph, how can people find you?
Chaotic_artisan on the gram. I don't do the tiki-takis or snappy chatties.
Doesn't matter. TikTok's banned.
Yeah, find me there.
You can find me at Beeford Clark on Instagram. You can follow the show at ufostudio.detroit, also at the gram. You can find us on Facebook at the Unorthodox Film Podcast. And you can head to our website at ufpodcast.podbean.com, and that's where you can find past episodes and a link to our merch store. So if you want to show us some support financially and not just listening, we would love that. You can head up and purchase yourself some of the newest and coolest in UF Pod merch, including our T-shirt for Thank the Crew, because we stand behind our crew. That's now available in a hoodie and a T-shirt, and I do believe
a zippy.
Yeah,
hit up that UFO Bazaar.
And then if you have any questions or desires or roles that you want to see covered on #SetLife, let us know. Email us at ufostudio.detroit@gmail.com.
It's your own.
Or hit us up on the socials that he's
times.
already mentioned. He's got it printed in front of him.
Well, the email's not there, but I just had a fart moment. That's okay. But yeah, no, hit us up or give us some scores on podcast stuff that you listen to. We love the 5 stars, or some feedback. If we're 1 star, let us know.
Anywhere you enjoy podcasts, type in that UF pod and give us a like, a follow, a share, comment, please. Get into the conversation.
That's what I was going for.
We really want to know, what do you guys think? What are we missing? What would you say? Because, we all have an opinion, and that's what this is about. Sharing your opinion.
So thank you again, and we will catch you next time. Jake, again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, sir.
#SetLife.
Woo! Peace out.